Hi there, I'm Danica. And 3 months ago, I wired $42,000 to my parents because they said the roof was collapsing, the furnace was dead, and they were about to lose the house. 2 days later, my sister was posting pictures from Venice, holding a glass of wine on a yacht I apparently paid for. Why would a family fake an emergency just to fund a European vacation? And why was I the only one surprised? Have you ever been the one holding your family together, only to realize they never had your back, ever had your generosity used against you? Tell me, what time are you watching this? And where in the world are you listening from? Drop a comment. I read every single one. The call came when the city was asleep, and so was I, almost. I was half sitting on my couch, laptop still open, screen burning my retinas with budget reports and overdue numbers. When my phone buzzed, vibrating against the glass table, I didn't check the time. I didn't have to. No one calls at 2:03 a.m. with good news. Danica? My mom's voice shook on the other end. I'm so sorry to wake you, honey, but we didn't know who else to call. In the background, I could hear my dad muttering something. He never raised his voice, but there was a strain there I hadn't heard since the day Grandma passed. That was almost a decade ago. Everything's falling apart. The roof, it's leaking everywhere. And the furnace won't even turn on anymore. We tried to fix it ourselves, but... She didn't finish the sentence. I could hear her start crying. We're behind, sweetheart. The bank's talking foreclosure. I stood up slowly, cold air wrapping around my ankles. I walked to the window and stared down at the dark outline of Austin. No lights in their house miles away, just shadows in mine. How much? I asked. No, we can't ask you to. How much, Mom? There was a beat of silence. Then my dad came on the line, voice rough. 27. We need 27,000. We'll pay you back every cent. You know we will. I didn't say anything. He added, we're sleeping in the basement. Upstairs is too cold now. Your mom's knees? She can't even stand for long anymore? I opened my banking app, staring at the number I'd saved for nearly 4 years. The house deposit. The dream place up north with the stone fireplace and corner windows. I transferred the full amount. She cried harder this time in gratitude. My dad's voice cracked, calling me our angel, and I stood there numb, phone in one hand, future disappearing in the other. I told them, text me the account number. And that was it. By sunrise, it was done. I sat in silence with my now empty savings staring back at me like a dare. The next morning, the world went on like it hadn't collapsed overnight. My coffee tasted the same. The morning sun still bounced off my kitchen tile. And yet, everything had changed. A text came in from my dad. You're an angel. We'll pay you back, promise. I smiled without meaning it. A sharp, familiar tug in my chest whispered, you've done this before. I opened the spreadsheet I'd closed hours earlier and pretended nothing had happened. They're my parents, I said out loud, to no one. But even my voice sounded unsure. 3 days later, I was lying in bed, scrolling Instagram like my brain needed noise. That's when I saw it. A story from my sister Tinsley. She was spinning, hair tossed in perfect waves, a silk dress glinting in Roman sunlight. The caption read, Roma, I'm in love. I blinked, then scrolled. Tinsley on a gondola in Venice. Tinsley wine tasting in Tuscany. Tinsley at the Trevi Fountain, blowing kisses. My phone slipped from my hand. For a second, I thought maybe it was a memory, something from years ago. But then I saw the timestamp, posted 2 days after I sent the transfer. I sat upright. My heart didn't race. It just stopped. That's when it hit me. The basement they claimed to be sleeping in, the broken furnace, the roof, a fantasy. They hadn't just lied, they'd rehearsed it. I pulled up the transfer confirmation again, the one marked emergency repair. My thumb hovered over the image of Tinsley sipping champagne on a rooftop with the caption, Best parents ever. 2 days. I wired $42,000 2 days before that rooftop toast. I stared at the glowing screen, and in that moment something broke inside me. Not loud, but permanent. The break room smelled like burnt coffee and overripe bananas. I sat in the far corner, scrolling through Instagram while my frozen meal spun in the microwave behind me. A tiny moment of stillness, until I saw it. Tinsley's wrist, glossy, perfectly lit. The rose gold Rolex she wore gleamed beneath a caption that read, "She said I deserved something timeless." I stared at the screen. That watch wasn't just expensive, it was specific. The same one I tried on once during a layover in Dallas. The saleswoman had complimented my taste, even offered a glass of champagne. I handed it back. "I'm saving for something else," I told her. I had saved every cent since. And now that watch was on Tinsley's wrist, bought with my sacrifice. My microwave beeped. I didn't move. That night, lying in bed, I refreshed my feed out of habit. I should have just turned off the screen. Instead, I saw her again. This time it was a video. Tinsley's TikTok opened with the camera angled high, soft music playing underneath. POV, when your older sister thinks saving money is a personality trait, #toxic, #jealous much. The comments rolled in. Yikes, your sister sounds awful. Tell her to get a life. I can't with these bitter siblings. I didn't realize I'd stopped breathing until the ceiling started to spin. She didn't even name me, but she didn't have to. Her followers knew. They always knew. The next morning, I sat at my vanity, staring at my reflection. My eyes looked tired, older somehow, like I'd aged 5 years overnight. 16 years ago, I gave up my birthday party because Tinsley had chickenpox. She cried, so I let Mom cancel mine. 10 years ago, I skipped prom to cover Mom's medical bills, while Tinsley flew to Miami for cheer camp. And now, I was toxic. "I've never taken anything," I whispered to the mirror. "Not credit, not even room." I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over the TikTok app. I could say something, defend myself, drag the truth into the open. Instead, I opened my gallery and took screenshots. Post after post, caption after caption, evidence. I opened my notes app, created a new file, titled it Evidence Log. First entry, Instagram post 0304 Rolex. Second entry, TikTok post 0306 toxic sibling reference. I didn't cry, I didn't yell, but for the first time, I felt something cold, calculated, and strangely clear settle in my chest. This wasn't just hurt anymore, it was strategy. They didn't stop with one video, or two. They multiplied, shared, stitched, reposted across feeds I'd never followed and accounts I'd never seen. The one that finally reached my screen was from a lifestyle influencer with 500,000 followers, Tinsley's close friend apparently. The video was called Toxic Siblings, When Jealousy Turns Dangerous. In the first few seconds, I saw a blurred screenshot of my profile picture from LinkedIn. Then the narrative started. Phrases like emotional control, financial manipulation, and older sibling resentment floated across the screen in pastel fonts. I didn't hear the rest. I sat at my desk in the office, screen blinking with open spreadsheets I couldn't make sense of anymore. The world around me moved in slow motion, people talking, phones ringing, someone laughing 3 desks away. But I was still, frozen. I'd expected backlash eventually, but not from people who'd never met me, not from strangers assigning me guilt in a story I didn't even get to write. Now, I wasn't just the villain in my family. I was the villain to strangers. The text from Brady came 5 minutes later. "Hey, I think you need to see this." Too late. I took a long breath, then stood up and grabbed my bag. Christine's office was cold, clinical. Her desk immaculate, a glass bowl of hard candy sitting at the corner like an ironic peace offering. I didn't sit. She looked up when I entered. Her eyes scanned my face. "They went public?" she asked. I nodded. "It's everywhere." She motioned to the chair across from her and slid a folder toward me. "Then it's time we went factual." Inside was a mortgage document. My name printed neatly across the top. My social security number. A signature that looked like mine. It wasn't. "I didn't sign this," I said softly. Christine raised an eyebrow. "You're sure?" "I don't even remember seeing this." "Think." She leaned forward. "Have you ever signed a packet they gave you? Something they said was insurance-related or routine?" And then it came back. One afternoon, 2 years ago. My mom showed up at my door with banana bread and a smile. "We just need your name on a few updates for the family paperwork," she'd said. "Nothing serious. You don't even have to read it." I didn't. I clenched my fists. "They used me." "No," Christine said. "They depended on your silence." That night, I sat cross-legged on the floor of my apartment with my laptop open, my bank account up, transaction history loaded. I clicked back through every month, every week. There were charges I didn't recognize, small, subtle ones, payments labeled Edistar Online, Retreat Techs, LuxFit Box. At first glance, nothing criminal. But together, they told a different story. I tracked dozens of payments tied to services Tinsley had posted about online. Her online yoga certification, a spiritual retreat in Sedona, luxury skincare boxes tagged in her influencer reels. It was systematic and silent and so very calculated. I opened Excel, started a new sheet titled Timeline of Theft. Line 1, May 2nd, $89, Retreat TX deposit. Line 2, May 3rd, Instagram story. Manifestation week begins. I filled it row by row. No tears, no rage, only resolve. At some point after midnight, I walked to the bathroom, looked in the mirror. "I've been playing defense my whole life," I said out loud. Then I smiled. Time to build an offense. The spreadsheet glowed against the dim kitchen light, its rows multiplying like cracks in a foundation I thought was solid. I hadn't slept in 2 days. I'd run through statements, timelines, transactions. But this wasn't just data anymore. It was evidence. That night I noticed something else. Tiny payments I'd overlooked, labeled miscellaneous. Harmless at first glance, buried beneath larger charges. But when placed side by side with Tinsley's social media calendar, they aligned like puzzle pieces. A yoga retreat in Arizona, $412, tagged under Zen Balance, private tuition sessions, weekly withdrawals like clockwork, custom skincare box, Luxwell, $87.95, monthly. The money didn't vanish. It walked little by little in perfect rhythm, under my name, for her life. My hands trembled as I scrolled back. 6 months of financial erosion I didn't authorize. My throat went dry. This wasn't carelessness. This was systematized theft. And the system had a name, Tinsley. The next day, Dustin texted, "Can we talk? I found something in Dad's things." We met at a quiet cafe tucked between a thrift store and an old record shop. He looked nervous, older somehow, more tired than I remembered. "I didn't know what to do with this," he said, pulling out a yellowed envelope. "But you should have it." Inside was a letter, handwritten, Lana's handwriting. I recognized the loops in her L's, the slant of her R's. It wasn't addressed to me, it was for Tinsley. "We've ensured Danica has no legal standing on the house. She's always been too independent to care. She'll understand. She always does." I read it twice. My hands were cold. "They weren't just erasing my name," I said. "They were rewriting the story where I never existed." Dustin didn't say anything. I drove home with the envelope on the passenger seat, my knuckles white against the wheel. At home, I cleared my wall, took down every framed print, every gallery piece that once made the place feel curated. In its place, I started taping up papers, bank statements, screenshots, printed posts, a timeline. At the top in red Sharpie, I wrote 2 questions. Who benefits? Tinsley? Who signed? Lana. I connected the lines, drew arrows. It no longer felt like family. It looked like a network built to siphon, erase, and preserve only one truth, theirs. I didn't sleep, I didn't cry, but something inside me shifted. This wasn't just fraud. This was a clean erasure, and I wasn't going to vanish quietly. The paper was thin, cheaper than what you'd expect for a legal document, but the content it carried, it weighed like concrete. Christine laid it flat on her desk, smoothing the corners. She didn't need to explain what I was looking at. I could read. The font was off, the notary stamp missing, and my name wasn't there. "This was tucked behind the original will," she said. "No legal authority, no signature, but someone clearly wanted it to look final." Grandma had left the house to both of us, me and Tinsley. That was her last clear request before the stroke. She even said it in front of the hospice nurse. And yet here it was, an updated clause, marked confidential. I read it again. The line etched itself into me. "Danica will understand. She's always been independent. She doesn't need the house." No, but I did need the truth. "They didn't just plan the theft," I murmured. "They anticipated my protest." I drove home in silence. Christine didn't follow me. She didn't need to. I already knew what came next. The moment I walked through my door, I noticed the envelope from the bank. Inside was a loan notification. My name, my social security number, my credit line. Apparently, I was helping finance a private venue for someone's wedding. $20,000 withdrawn from a line I never opened. I checked the vendor name, Magnolia Bluffs, an event space I'd heard Tinsley brag about over dinner 2 months ago. She'd toasted to exciting plans, her mom nodding like it was a royal announcement. I was halfway through a chicken skewer when Dad said, "It's going to be a beautiful day." Now I knew who was footing the bill. I called my mother. She picked up on the second ring, breathless like she'd been waiting for it. "Hi, sweetheart, If I see one more dime leave my name to cover your lies, I promise you'll regret it." Silence. Then her voice dropped to that tone she always used when pretending she was the calm one. "There's no need to be dramatic. This is still your home." I hung up. That night, I sat down with a blank journal. It was dusty, shoved behind cookbooks and expired coupons. I hadn't written in it since college. I wrote a single sentence. "They think silence is surrender. It never was." Then I logged every call, every transaction, every timeline, printed every email, backed it all up to 3 drives. I drew lines between events, circled key dates, color-coded names. My apartment looked like a detective's office by morning. This wasn't revenge. This was audit, and I wasn't leaving room for forgiveness this time. By noon, I had a full binder. I was sipping cold coffee when my phone buzzed. "Mom." I let it go to voicemail. Her message was syrupy sweet. "We need to talk, sweetie. Don't do anything dramatic. This is still your home." I stared at the phone, blinking once. It was. Once. The email came from a coworker, subject line, "Thought you'd want to see this." I clicked the link half distracted, expecting another meeting invite or some meme-worthy industry news. Instead, it opened to a wedding registry. Tinsley's. At the top it read, "Celebrating the happy couple," followed by an address I recognized all too well. Our childhood home. The one I was told was on the verge of foreclosure. The one they cried to me about at 2:03 in the morning. She was registering for $300 mixing bowls and imported sheets, sent to a house I supposedly saved from being lost. They didn't just lie. They built their future on top of my erasure and had it gift-wrapped. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I sat down, logged in. The posts were all still there. Stories, photos, travel tags. Venice, Amalfi, Zurich. I pulled up my bank activity. For every vacation photo, a charge. For every caption about healing or self-care, a withdrawal. Spa retreat post, $628 debited. Gondola shot, $3,200 transaction. She even posted a reel about manifesting luxury the same day my account was billed for a flight I didn't book. The data matched. I spent the entire afternoon compiling it, screenshot by screenshot, post by post. I color-coded everything and saved it to 3 different drives. Christine leaned over my shoulder and let out a low whistle. "You've done half my job." I smiled, tight and controlled. "Good. Then the other half should move fast." That night, I printed it all. Pages of receipts, overlays of Instagram timestamps, highlighted emails. The cover page said one thing, "Final grounds." Brady came over with dinner. I barely touched it. We sat at the kitchen island while I sorted each tab into labeled folders. "What do you need from me?" he asked gently. I looked up. "I need you to help me write something they'll never unsee." The next morning, I sent a certified letter. It arrived at 10:32 a.m., signed delivery. It was addressed to Richard and Lana Rowe. Inside, notice of intent to file legal action, fraudulent use of identity, theft by deception, emotional exploitation, each claim cited, each amount listed. At the bottom in bold, filed by Danica Rowe. I signed it with a blue pen. No flourish, no fear. You wanted a quiet daughter. You raised a storm instead. Brady walked through the door holding a plain envelope. He didn't say anything right away. He just set it down on the table like it might burn a hole through the surface. I opened it, pulled out the airline receipt. Austin, Paris, Rome, passenger, Tinsley Rowe. Paid with a corporate credit card issued under my name. I didn't even know that card existed. "She didn't even try to hide it," Brady said. It was posted in her story last month. Business class, champagne in hand. I didn't blink. And she paid for it with a card I never applied for. He nodded. It wasn't just the watch, or the retreat, or the $42,000 I sent thinking I was saving our parents' house. It was my name, my credit, my identity. They hadn't just stolen from me. They'd made a brand out of it. By Sunday, I was ready. Dinner at the row house was predictable. Lana had her pearls on, and the table was set like it was Thanksgiving, even though it was the middle of spring. Richard carved the roast, smiling too wide. Tinsley poured herself a second glass of wine before the salad reached the table. I wore a simple black top, nothing fancy. Underneath, clipped to my bra, was a recording mic. Brady waited in the car. "So how's work, sweetheart?" Mom asked, dabbing at the corner of her mouth. "Quiet," I said. Silence stretched like smoke. Then she leaned forward, clasping her hands as if prepping for a sermon. "You know, Tinsley's been under a lot of pressure lately. The wedding planning, her online brand, all the judgment from strangers." I nodded, letting her continue. "She just needed the trip, the time away. We all did. And we know you understand that. You've always been the strong one." Dad didn't meet my eyes. Tinsley didn't have to say anything. She didn't need to. They believed they were still in control. So I smiled, chewed my food, let the recorder soak up every word like a sponge in acid. After dessert, I said thank you, hugged Mom, and walked to the car. Brady looked at me. "She say it?" "Every word." We drove in silence until we reached my place. I didn't even change clothes before opening my laptop. I created a new email, attached the recording, the receipts, the timeline. Subject: preliminary evidence for fraud filing. To Christine Blake, ESQ, CC, myself. "I spent years shrinking myself so they'd have more room," I told Brady as I clicked send. "And they used that space to walk all over me." I posted to my story next. Black screen, white text. Some things need to be said aloud. So I recorded them. No audio, just the countdown, 24 hours. The email hit my inbox at 6:41 a.m., long before my coffee had kicked in. It was from Mom. The subject line read only, "Please read." I opened it anyway. "You've always been difficult, but we love you anyway. Can't you see how hard this is on Tinsley? The stress is ruining her skin. She's not sleeping." I read it 3 times. Then I read it again out loud. It sounded like a parody of compassion, laced with guilt and manipulation, sweetened just enough to make me feel like the villain for seeing through it. That was the worst part. They believed it. That I was the problem. That I was the burden, even as they siphoned everything they could from my name, my savings, my silence. I didn't reply. Instead, I scrolled back through my texts and found the one Dustin had sent a few days ago. "We should talk. You're not alone in this." We met at the same cafe as last time. He already had a folder open when I walked in. "I wanted to show you something," he said, sliding it across the table. Inside were court documents, a complaint from years ago, names redacted, dates eerily similar, but the pattern was there. "My sister tried to sue them," he said quietly, "after they pulled her off our grandfather's business trust, said she wasn't financially responsible enough." I skimmed through the testimony. The phrasing was familiar. "She's always been emotional. She doesn't understand the burden of being the strong one." They cut her out, too, for speaking up. "This wasn't a bad year," I said slowly. "This was a family system, and I was next in line." That afternoon, I opened my laptop and uploaded the voice recording, the one from the dinner. I didn't post it to my feed, not yet. I uploaded it to a private support group on Reddit for survivors of financial abuse, a place where people might actually understand. Within 2 hours, it was shared across 4 different subreddits. A podcast host messaged me asking if I'd be willing to speak anonymously. I didn't respond. I was folding laundry when my phone rang. "Mom," again. I let it go to voicemail. This time, her voice was cracking. "Danica, please. You're tearing us apart. You don't know what you're doing." No, I knew exactly what I was doing. I took a screenshot of the altered will, another of the airline receipt. I sent them back. No caption. I didn't owe her words, didn't owe anyone an explanation anymore. That night, I lay in bed, the quiet heavier than usual. For the first time, not heavy with dread, but with finality. If it's falling apart, maybe it was never whole. The box was smaller than I remembered. Just one left, tucked beneath the counter in my new apartment. I sat cross-legged on the floor, the late afternoon sun crawling across the wood like it was in no rush to warm the place. There was no music, no noise, just the quiet of something finally over. I opened the box and pulled out a photo, me at 8 years old, sitting beside Grandma in the garden. My smile was crooked. Her hand rested on my back like she already knew the kind of armor I'd need one day. Taped to the back was a note in her handwriting. "You are more than they tell you." I stared at those 7 words like they were scripture. That photo went in the drawer of my nightstand, not on display, not on the wall, just close enough to find when I forget. I didn't go to the courthouse. I didn't need a judge or a verdict or a room full of strangers in ties and nameplates to tell me what I already knew. Guilty, but more than that, calculated. I read the headline on my phone just once. Viral fraud case sparks national conversation on family financial abuse. I turned off notifications. Let them spin the narrative if they wanted to. My part was over. Mom and Dad listed the house last week. No announcement, just a quiet, desperate upload on Zillow, starting at 20% under market value. I didn't need to ask why. Tinsley deleted everything. Her Instagram, her TikTok, her website, all of it. Wiped clean like it never happened. There was no apology, just digital dust. Brady showed up with Thai food on my first night in the new place. He didn't ask how I was. He knew better. I unpacked one mug, white ceramic, chipped near the handle, words on it fading but still readable. "You're not hard to love." It was Grandma's. She'd given it to me when I moved to college. I'd shoved it in a box after the first fight with Mom about Tinsley needing extra help. Now it sat on my kitchen shelf, not hidden. I poured tea into it and sat on the couch, cheap, secondhand, but mine. I watched the steam rise like something being released from inside me. I didn't leave the house. I left the version of me that thought love had to hurt. The next morning, an email arrived. Subject line, "Family group chat restart?" I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I deleted it and took another sip of tea. Forgiveness isn't required to move on. Sometimes it's just the absence of permission to hurt me again. Maybe you've never lost $42,000. Maybe your sister didn't sip wine in Rome while calling you toxic online. But maybe, just maybe, you've been the one holding the family together in silence, until that silence started costing you everything. I used to think strength meant staying quiet, enduring, proving I could handle it. Now I know. Strength sometimes means walking away, saying enough when no one else will. It's not easy. It's not clean, but it's real. If this story resonated with you, even just one part of it, I want to hear from you. Drop a 1 in the comments if you've ever been the strong one, or tell me, what city are you watching from? And hey, if you didn't like this story, that's okay too. Let me know why. I read every comment. If this video made you feel something, if it reminded you that your story matters, subscribe to the channel for more stories that hit where it hurts and heal where it counts. You never know who you might help by just being here.